Did you know there's a feature in Replit that lets you visually edit your sites and apps, similar to using a website builder like Webflow, so that you don't have to go into the code to make changes to things like headings, text, images, and you don't have to ask agents silly things like, can you change the heading from this to this? In this video, I'm going to be walking through the visual editor feature in Replit. I'm going to be discussing how to use it, and when not to use it in your Replit project. In order to access the visual editor, what you need to do is have an active chat going with the agent. And you need to find this small edit icon here, which will activate the visual editor. Let's open this up. And now when I hover over my preview, I'll be able to select and start editing text, images, buttons, and other simple elements on the page. So let's say I wanted to edit the text inside this span. So let's change this to build. I can also edit the content of the text from this left panel here. For the moment, Replit Visual Editor just has some simple design settings like the content, font size, weight, alignment, text color, background color, and some margin and padding. It's important to note you need to hit this Save Changes button if you would like to keep your changes. This works for buttons as well, so if I want to click into this button, again, I can edit the content, sizing, and all of these things. It works for images as well, so if I click onto this image and I wanted to change it, I'll see the source image, and Replit also has an option to upload an image from my device. Let's add this Replit Business Build. And this has actually uploaded my image into my Replit files under this attached assets folder here. One last common element that you may wish to use the visual editor for is things like sections or the containers around your elements on the page. So if I wanted to add some more padding inside of this container with my demo video, I can click onto the correct container. I can see that the padding is currently set to 32 pixels. Maybe I want to increase that to 60. I can do that here very easily. Maybe I also want to change the background color. One neat thing is we have a color picker right here. So if I want to keep my colors consistent, I can use my existing brand colors. Some things to note, for example, since we have a span text inside of this heading here, and we have a motion animation attached to this block here, sometimes it's not actually so easy using the visual editor to click in and edit the content that you want. So I can see that I have the H1 selected, but I don't actually have an option to edit the content of this heading. Maybe by the time you watch this video, that will already be fixed, but just be aware that sometimes you may click into an option and you may not actually have the editing options that you expect. In those cases, you will probably just need to ask agent to make the changes for you if you're not comfortable going into the code and making the changes. So that's one example of when not to use the visual editor. Other examples where I would say you probably want to avoid trying to use the visual editor is when you're making site-wide or page-wide design changes. So if I wanted to change all of the padding for all of the cards throughout this whole page, I could do it using the visual editor and maybe it would save me like 40 cents. But I could also just ask agent to adjust the styling and padding for all our cards to 60 pixels. In general, agent's going to be faster than you, and it's probably going to apply it in a more coherent and efficient way for all of your designs going forward to be consistent. So the takeaway, when should you use the visual editor? When you want to make really simple content changes like changing this paragraph's text. For more complex design changes or site-wide changes to the styling, I actually still recommend that you just use agent so that you have a more consistent implementation going forward.